Have you ever stopped to question what your thoughts are doing behind the scenes, when no one's watching, when you're alone, and when the world is quiet? Most people never realize that the very thoughts they repeat day after day are shaping their lives moment by moment. Not just shaping how they feel, but directing what they see, what they attract, and ultimately who they become. This isn't a distant philosophical idea. It's personal. It's happening right now inside your mind. Every thought you allow, every belief you nurture is planting a seed. And that seed, watered with repetition, grows into your reality. Most people live on autopilot, consumed by worry, self-doubt, regret, and fear. They carry thoughts like, I'm not good enough, nothing ever works out for me, or it's too late. They don't realize that every one of those thoughts is a silent command, echoed to the subconscious, acted out in behavior, and reflected in the results they keep getting. Your life doesn't just happen to you. It responds to you. And the most powerful force it responds to is what you consistently think about. You are not stuck. You are being guided by the thoughts you dwell on. Shift the thought, and you shift the path. Right now, you're drawing something into your life. You may not see it instantly, but the process is in motion. Like a magnet, your dominant thoughts are pulling similar energy, similar experiences, similar people into your reality. Think long enough about failure, and you'll start sabotaging your own success. Think constantly about growth, and you'll begin to see opportunities where others only see problems. Your thoughts are not just noise, they're instructions. Instructions that your brain, your habits, and the world around you respond to whether you're aware of it or not. This is why mastering your thinking is the most powerful transformation you can make. Not chasing success, not chasing validation, but taking ownership of the thoughts that run your inner world. Because once you do, everything else begins to change. You no longer react, you create. You no longer wait, you attract. You no longer repeat the past, you design the future. That shift in mindset is the beginning of your personal power. And it's available to you starting now. If there's a part of you that's tired of circling the same patterns, of living with invisible limits you didn't choose, then understand this: your thoughts are not just reflections of your life. They are the architects of it. And if you want different results, you must build with different materials. That begins with choosing what you allow to stay in your mind. This message isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to awaken you. Because the moment you take control of your thoughts, you take control of your direction. And if you keep watching, you'll learn exactly how to do that. Because what you focus on, you feed. And what you feed, you eventually become. So choose wisely. Your next chapter begins in your mind, starting now. Your mind is not passive. It is active, alive, and always working, whether you guide it or not. And that's the danger. When you don't consciously direct your thoughts, your subconscious picks up whatever is most familiar, most emotional, or most repeated. That's why people often feel stuck in cycles they didn't choose, because they're mentally rehearsing the same doubts, the same regrets, and the same fears day after day. Thought is not just a whisper in your head. It's an engine, silently pulling your life in the direction of whatever dominates your inner world. You think you're just thinking, but you're actually attracting. You think you're just remembering, but you're actually reliving. You think you're just reflecting, but you're actually reinforcing. There is no neutral thought. Every thought carries weight. It either lifts you or it pulls you. It either frees you or it holds you. When you dwell on defeat, you start to see reasons to give up. When you dwell on growth, your brain starts scanning for possibilities. Your dominant thoughts signal to your mind what matters. And once the mind believes something matters, it filters the entire world through that lens. That's why you notice what you expect. That's why you find what you fear. That's why some people see obstacles while others see openings. The difference is not luck, it's mental alignment. The one who wins is usually the one whose thoughts refuse to bend under pressure. If you want to rise, your thoughts must rise first. You cannot think like a victim and expect to live like a victor. You cannot hold bitterness and expect peace. You cannot think small and expect your life to expand. The world reflects your energy, and your energy is shaped by what you think about most. So the question is, what have you been feeding your mind? What thoughts have you been entertaining? What emotional tones have you been repeating? Because nothing shows up in your life by accident. It's all connected to what you've made normal inside your own head. You were not born to be buried under your thoughts. You were born to master them, to rise above limitation, to rewire the story, to become intentional with your inner voice. Because when you shift what you focus on, you change what becomes possible. You begin to interrupt the autopilot. You start noticing doors you used to miss. You attract new conversations, new energy, new direction, because your signal has changed. And when your signal changes, your life follows. This is not about fake positivity. It's about intentional focus. It's about reclaiming control over what you're allowing to dominate your inner space. You are not powerless. You are powerful once you realize the authority you have over your thoughts. Choose focus over fear. Choose belief over doubt. Choose vision over limitation. Because whatever you dwell on long enough will find its way into your reality. And the most important decision you'll ever make is what you decide to think about when no one is watching. Every time you repeat a thought, you carve a deeper path in your mind. Whether that thought is empowering or destructive, your brain doesn't judge. It obeys. It memorizes your patterns and builds neural highways to make those thoughts automatic. That's how beliefs are formed. Not by truth, but by repetition. And what's repeated often enough becomes your default setting. This is why the same inner voice keeps returning, whispering the same doubts, the same fears, the same limitations, even when your life has changed. The mind doesn't evolve unless you interrupt the pattern. It holds on to what's familiar, even if it hurts. But you don't have to live from those default settings. You can update the script. You can rewire your mental blueprint, starting with one conscious decision at a time. The most dangerous prison is the one you don't know you're in. And for most, that prison is built from unchallenged thoughts. Thoughts picked up from failure, from pain, from people who didn't see your worth. If left unchecked, these thoughts become internal laws, rules you follow without realizing. I can't do this. It's too late for me. I'm not capable. These are not facts. These are mental habits. And like any habit, they can be broken. But it starts with recognizing that your thoughts are not final. They are flexible. They are not truth. They are suggestions. And you have the power to accept, reject, or replace them. When you shift your thoughts, you shift your identity. Not just how you see the world, but how you see yourself. And when you see yourself differently, you show up differently. You stop lowering your standards. You stop apologizing for your goals. You stop hiding behind excuses. You begin to carry yourself with the quiet certainty of someone who knows they belong. Because you're no longer thinking from your past, you're thinking from your future. You're no longer echoing fear, you're practicing faith. And that change in inner dialogue rewrites everything. You don't rise by force, you rise by alignment. Align your thoughts with who you want to become, not who you used to be. Speak to yourself as if you already believe in your potential. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. There is no breakthrough without a mental shift. There is no new level without a new mindset. And if you want your outer world to change, it begins with what you're rehearsing in silence. This is your moment to reclaim your power from old thought patterns, to choose intentionally, to focus relentlessly, to become conscious of what you've been feeding your mind. You are always shaping your future with the words you repeat to yourself. So make them count. Make them strong. Make them yours. Because what you dwell on will shape what you see, how you act, and who you become. And the only way to create a life that reflects your true potential is to first think like the version of you that already lives it. There is a silent force behind every achievement, every breakthrough, every transformation, and that force is belief. What you believe about yourself sets the ceiling on your potential. It doesn't matter how much talent you have, how many resources are available, or how badly you want change. If your thoughts say you're not worthy, not capable, not enough, your life will shrink to match that belief. Not because it's true, but because the mind protects what it accepts as real. It resists anything that challenges the familiar. And if failure, rejection, or fear have been replayed often enough in your thoughts, they become the filter through which you see the world. The goal is not just to think better, but to believe deeper, because once belief shifts, everything else follows. Your actions always mirror your identity. You don't act outside of your core beliefs, you act in alignment with them. If you see yourself as weak, you will hesitate. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will sabotage. If you see yourself as powerless, you will settle. The body obeys the mind, and the mind obeys the story it repeats. That's why transformation doesn't begin with action. It begins with permission. You have to give yourself permission to think higher, to believe in more, to expect something different, not from the world, but from yourself. Because the limits you experience are often the limits you've accepted. What you hold true in your mind becomes a magnet in your life. If you believe opportunities are scarce, you'll walk past them. If you believe people can't be trusted, you'll push connection away. If you believe success is for someone else, you'll never reach for it fully. But the opposite is also true. If you believe your voice matters, you'll speak up. If you believe your effort has meaning, you'll persist. If you believe you're becoming something greater, you'll act like it before the results ever show. And it's that kind of belief that reshapes lives, not because it's wishful thinking, but because it rewires what the mind looks for, how the body moves, and how you respond to every moment. You are not defined by your past beliefs. You are designed to grow beyond them. The mind is not fixed, it's fluid. And the most powerful decision you can make today is to stop waiting for evidence before you believe. Start believing so deeply that your energy changes before your life does. Start thinking thoughts that match the future you want, not the present you're tired of. Because that shift is where the real transformation begins. That's where clarity sharpens, where fear dissolves, where momentum builds. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to believe you are worth the effort. Because once you do, you'll stop negotiating with self-doubt. You'll stop feeding the lie. You'll start acting like someone who's already free. And when your belief finally aligns with your potential, the world around you won't have a choice but to adjust. Every emotion you feel is a signal. It's not random. It's the mind's way of showing you what you've been focusing on. Your emotional state doesn't rise or fall by chance. It follows the direction of your dominant thoughts. Think long enough about what's missing and you'll feel empty. Think long enough about what's wrong and you'll feel powerless. But think about what's possible and you start to feel hope. Think about progress and you begin to feel strength. Your emotions are mirrors, constantly reflecting the quality of your internal dialogue. And if you want to shift how you feel, you must begin by shifting what you choose to dwell on. This is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about mastering the internal climate of your life. Because while you may not control every event, you do control how long it lives inside you. When pain becomes your main focus, your energy shrinks. When gratitude takes over, your vision expands. When you stay stuck in fear, the world looks darker than it is. But when you train your mind to return to calm, return to clarity, return to purpose, you regain control. And the person who controls their emotional state is the person who controls their direction. High-level emotions, confidence, courage, peace, determination, don't just appear, they're summoned. They're the product of mental discipline. You don't wait to feel motivated. You speak to yourself in a way that creates it. You don't wait for life to be easy. You rise to meet it with strength you've built through thought. Emotion follows thought. And the more you train your mind to focus on growth, progress, and vision, the more your emotional state shifts to match that direction. You can't build a powerful life on a foundation of emotional instability. If your mood is always tied to circumstances, your life will be reactive, not intentional. But when you develop emotional awareness, when you notice what you're feeling and trace it back to what you've been thinking, you unlock a new level of control. You become less triggered, more grounded, less chaotic, more focused. And that control isn't just about feeling better, it's about performing better, deciding better, living better. Because how you feel determines what you do. And what you do shapes who you become. Your emotional state is not a result, it's a practice. And every day you are either rehearsing emotions that weaken you or training emotions that strengthen you. You can feed anxiety or you can train calm. You can feed defeat or you can train resilience. The choice is always there, and it always begins in your thoughts. Don't underestimate the power of how you speak to yourself. Don't ignore the way your thinking shapes your inner world. Because when your mind learns to dwell on strength, peace, and possibility, your emotions rise to meet that energy, and your life begins to reflect it. Your identity is not fixed. It is forged through repetition. The thoughts you think most often become the story you tell yourself. And over time, that story becomes the standard you live by. Every day you repeat a thought like, "I'm not ready, I always mess up, or I'll never change," you strengthen an identity that works against your potential. Not because it's true, but because it's familiar. And the mind always returns to the familiar, even when it hurts. If you want to change your life, you must change the words you say when you're alone. Because those quiet sentences repeated in silence are shaping the person you see in the mirror. Nothing changes until you decide who you're going to be, regardless of your past, regardless of your circumstances. Your thoughts are either reinforcing the old you or building the new you. And the difference is in your consistency. Most people wait to feel different before thinking different. But if you keep thinking like the person you used to be, you'll keep living the life you're trying to leave behind. The breakthrough comes when you stop negotiating with your old mindset, when you stop waiting for confidence and start thinking like someone who already owns it. Because your mind doesn't know the difference between reality and repeated imagination. What you feed it most becomes what it accepts as true. If you want to change your self-image, you must be intentional about what you rehearse. Stop repeating what broke you. Stop echoing what limited you. Begin telling your mind who you are becoming. Not who you were, not who they said you'd be, who you choose to be now. Your thoughts must align with your goals, not your fears. Your inner dialogue must match the future you're building, not the past you're escaping. And you must be relentless, not for a day, not for a week, but until the old identity fades and the new one becomes natural. There is no transformation without mental consistency, no elevation without repetition. Rewire your thoughts like your life depends on it, because it does. You're not just thinking, you're programming. You're training your nervous system, your habits, your energy to follow the mental blueprint you repeat most often. So ask yourself, what are you rehearsing every day? Are you building strength or weakness? Are you empowering your future or clinging to your past? Your mind is listening. Your identity is forming. And the words you whisper in silence are setting the tone for your destiny. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not behind. You are preparing. But that preparation requires focus, discipline, and a new level of mental clarity. The person you want to become is waiting, but they can only emerge through a different pattern of thinking. One rooted in strength, not shame. One filled with power, not hesitation. Your thoughts are the first tool in building that version of you. Choose them like everything depends on it, because it does. What you focus on, you multiply. The mind is a spotlight, and whatever you aim it at grows larger in your awareness. Focus on fear, and it becomes paralyzing. Focus on setbacks, and they become defining. But focus on growth, on possibility, on discipline, and suddenly your world expands. The reality you experience is not shaped by facts alone, but by what you pay attention to. If you constantly scan for what's wrong, you miss what's working. If you constantly expect to fail, your brain will search for proof. That's how powerful your focus is. It's not a small choice. It's the steering wheel of your life. The direction of your thoughts becomes the direction of your energy. And wherever your energy goes, your actions follow. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you dwell on. The mind doesn't respond to shallow desires. It responds to dominant focus. If your days are filled with scattered thinking, self-doubt, and mental noise, then even your greatest ambitions will feel far away. But when you direct your focus with intention, when you hold a thought long enough for it to become a vision, something changes. You begin to think clearer, act stronger, and move with precision. That level of mental alignment is rare, but it's available to anyone willing to guard their focus like their future depends on it. Most people never reach their potential not because they lack talent, but because their focus is fractured. They start strong, then get distracted. They dream big, then return to self-sabotage. They believe for a moment, then drown in doubt. If your focus is constantly being pulled in every direction, your energy will never have the chance to compound. You cannot master anything you keep abandoning. You cannot create clarity while entertaining chaos. This is why the battle is not just in action, it's in attention. What you consistently look at shapes your mindset, and your mindset creates your momentum. Start training your focus like a muscle. Stop giving time to thoughts that drain you. Stop revisiting memories that shrink you. Stop rehearsing problems that don't deserve your energy. Protect your mental environment. Surround yourself with clarity, with standards, with vision. Your life is too important to be led by distraction. Stay locked in. Keep your eyes on what matters. Think long enough on purpose, and you become the person who doesn't flinch in the face of pressure. Because you've trained your mind to stay rooted in direction, not noise. You become dangerous the moment your focus becomes unshakable, because nothing can grow without your attention. If you want to kill doubt, stop feeding it. If you want to grow confidence, keep watering it. If you want to live differently, think differently, act differently, then focus differently. Choose what you give your mind to. Choose what you repeat. Because what you focus on, you empower. And what you empower, you eventually become. Guard your focus. Feed your future. Let everything else fade. Your internal script becomes your external reality. The words you repeat in your mind set the tone for how you walk through the world. If your inner dialogue is filled with hesitation, doubt, and apology, your actions will mirror that hesitation. You'll second-guess your choices. You'll question your worth. You'll lower your standards to fit a story that was never meant for you. But if your inner voice becomes a command of certainty, if it's filled with strength, clarity, and conviction, then you move with power. You walk with direction. You stop shrinking to fit rooms you were meant to lead. That shift begins in silence, where no one sees it, but everyone eventually feels it. You don't become powerful by pretending. You become powerful by programming. And that programming is a result of the narrative you live with. Every thought you repeat is a message to your nervous system. It tells your brain what to prioritize. It tells your emotions what to feel. It tells your behavior how to respond. If you constantly think, I'm not good enough, then your brain begins to scan every experience through the lens of lack. But when your thoughts shift to, I can grow through this, your perspective changes. Your posture changes. Your decisions change. You no longer act from fear. You act from intention. Words are energy. They either construct or destroy. You may not speak them out loud, but your body listens, your choices listen, your future listens. What you say to yourself in the dark echoes into every part of your life. Speak defeat long enough, and your spirit begins to bend. Speak strength long enough, and your habits begin to sharpen. The difference is not talent. It's not opportunity. It's not chance. It's inner language. It's the discipline of choosing what to say to yourself when life gives you every reason to say something else. You must take ownership of your inner world, because if you don't, the world around you will do it for you. You'll pick up the labels, the limitations, the lies that were never yours to carry. But you are not a reflection of what you've heard. You are a result of what you choose to repeat. And you can start repeating power, repeating truth, repeating words that lift, push, and awaken the part of you that's been buried under years of doubt, the part of you that's been waiting to hear something new. Say it until you believe it. Believe it until you embody it. And embody it until it becomes unshakable. Because what you keep telling yourself becomes the rhythm of your life. Make that rhythm strong. Make it rooted. Make it aligned with the person you were born to be. Let your inner voice lead your transformation, because when your thoughts align with strength, your life begins to follow. And there is no limit to what you can build when the foundation is conviction. Your life is a mirror of your mindset, not just in theory, but in every detail. The quality of your relationships, the discipline of your habits, the standards you tolerate, the dreams you pursue, all of it is a reflection of what you've accepted as normal in your mind. If you carry thoughts of lack, you will settle for less. If you nurture thoughts of strength, you will rise to more. The world bends not to your wishes, but to your expectations. And your expectations are built by what you think about repeatedly. You cannot think like a prisoner and live like a leader. You cannot walk with doubt and expect clarity to follow. Your environment reflects the boundaries of your belief system. Change the belief, and the entire picture starts to shift. There are no small thoughts. Every thought either builds or breaks the structure of your future. What you allow to live in your mind grows roots, and those roots show up in your behavior, your routines, and the energy you bring into every room. If your internal world is scattered, your external world will be chaotic. If your internal world is intentional, your external world begins to organize itself around that purpose. You attract what you align with. You experience what you mentally prepare for. This is why your mindset is not just personal, it's practical. It's the blueprint for everything that follows. You cannot elevate your life while entertaining thoughts that shrink your potential. You cannot build something great on a foundation of mental weakness. Strength starts before the action. It starts when you choose focus over fear, when you choose responsibility over excuses, when you choose to believe that you are not a product of circumstance, but of decision. The moment you decide to upgrade your thinking, everything else becomes a tool, not a trap. Even pain becomes fuel. Even pressure becomes preparation. Your mind stops breaking under weight and starts building through it. Let your thoughts match your vision, not your history. Don't use your past as a ruler. Use your future as the blueprint. Train your mind to dwell on who you are becoming, not who you used to be. Align your energy with the outcome you desire. Walk, speak, and act like it's already yours. Not because you're delusional, but because you understand that the mind leads and life follows. The world doesn't respond to your potential. It responds to your belief in it. This is your power. Not outside you, but within you. Not tomorrow, but now. You don't need more time. You need more alignment, more mental clarity, more conscious focus. Choose your thoughts like your future depends on them, because it does. Choose your beliefs like your self-worth depends on them, because it does. Your life reflects what you've rehearsed. So start rehearsing greatness. Start building the future in your mind, detail by detail, because once it's clear internally, the external world has no choice but to respond. Your mind is sacred ground, and not everything deserves a place in it. Every day thoughts try to enter, some uplifting, some destructive. And unless you guard your mental space with intention, your focus will be hijacked, your clarity will be clouded, and your energy will be drained by what never deserved your attention in the first place. Your peace is not something to be negotiated. It is something to be protected. You do not owe space to every opinion, every distraction, every memory that tries to pull you backward. Just as you wouldn't allow anyone to walk into your home and destroy it, you must not allow destructive thoughts to take residence in your mind. You are the gatekeeper, and that gate must be locked to anything that does not serve your growth. Your power is not in reacting. It's in choosing. And the moment you start choosing what you give energy to, you begin to rise above what once controlled you. You stop responding to every trigger. You stop entertaining every mental loop that brings you down. You start realizing that mental freedom is not found in avoidance, but in awareness. It's built in the discipline of saying no to the thoughts that shrink you. It's forged in the habit of redirecting your mind back to purpose, back to vision, back to strength, over and over until it becomes automatic. You are not weak for having negative thoughts. You are human. But you become powerful the moment you stop feeding them, the moment you choose not to believe everything that passes through your mind. Not all thoughts are truth. Not all thoughts are welcome. Or you must filter them like your future depends on it, because it does. The thoughts you allow are shaping your identity, your decisions, and your destiny. You cannot afford to be careless with what you give mental space to. Begin creating mental boundaries. Refuse to dwell on what you cannot control. Refuse to replay conversations that bring no clarity. Refuse to allow the voice of fear to speak louder than the voice of purpose. Silence the noise by filling your mind with direction, with vision, with reminders of who you are and who you are becoming. When your mind is clear, your path is visible. When your thoughts are aligned, your energy becomes powerful. And when your energy is powerful, your actions become undeniable. Your mind was not built to carry the weight of everything. It was built to focus, to create, to build, protect it, guard it, honor it. Because when you control what enters your mind, you control what enters your life. You are not here to absorb everything. You are here to become something. Every day is a decision. Let your thoughts serve your evolution, not your destruction. Let your focus serve your future, not your fear. Choose what belongs, reject what doesn't, and watch your entire life rise to meet the strength of your mental standard. You don't rise by accident, you rise by design. And that design starts with your mental discipline. Without it, even the strongest desire becomes scattered. Without it, your vision fades into distraction. You cannot build a powerful life on weak thoughts. You cannot conquer the outer world while surrendering your inner one. Growth is not something you stumble into. It's something you create with clarity, repetition, and conscious direction. The strength you want in your results must first exist in your thinking. If you crave change, your mind must become a place where change is expected, welcomed, and sustained. Mental discipline means choosing thoughts that serve you even when your emotions don't agree. It means thinking from commitment, not comfort. It means holding your mind steady when everything around you feels uncertain. This isn't about perfection, it's about mastery. It's about developing the ability to pause before you spiral, to shift before you sink, to think with purpose instead of reacting from pain. The more you practice this, the more your mind becomes a tool, sharp, focused, unstoppable. Not because you were born with it, but because you trained it again and again until it became your default. Most people live in reaction. They wake up and let the world dictate their mood, their thoughts, their direction. But you're not most people. You're not here to live by chance. You're here to live by choice. To wake up and decide what kind of mindset you will carry into the day. To choose strength over noise. To choose focus over distraction. Because when you start the day with mental discipline, the chaos of the world loses its power to control you. You stop getting pulled by every opinion, every emotion, every circumstance. You stand firm. You move with purpose. You own your path. You don't need perfect conditions. You need a trained mind, one that can stay calm under pressure, one that can focus when others fold, one that refuses to give in to old narratives. That kind of mind is not given. It's earned through repetition, through awareness, through the daily practice of replacing fear with focus and replacing doubt with direction. And every time you do that, you build something stronger inside yourself, something that no one can take. If you want freedom, build discipline. If you want peace, build focus. If you want transformation, train your thinking. Because once the mind is trained, your actions follow without hesitation. Your decisions become faster. Your vision becomes clearer. Your energy becomes more precise. Life begins to respond differently because you're no longer sending mixed signals. You're broadcasting strength. You're living with certainty. And that certainty is what draws results, momentum, and fulfillment into your life. Master your mind and you master your future. You already have the raw power. Now it's time to direct it, decide who you are. Think like it, move like it, and do not let one thought slip through that weakens your foundation. You are not waiting, you are building, thought by thought, step by step, until your reality matches your mind. The thoughts you allow today are creating the habits you live with tomorrow. You are always building something, whether consciously or unconsciously. Every mental pattern repeated becomes a behavioral pattern reinforced. If your thoughts are scattered, your habits will reflect it. If your thoughts are driven by fear, your actions will shrink. But if your thoughts are structured, intentional, and focused on growth, your habits will become aligned, powerful, and consistent. This is how transformation begins, not in massive external change, but in tiny mental decisions repeated until they reshape who you are. The strongest habits are born from the clearest thoughts. You don't need more motivation. You need better patterns. You need to wake up and choose thoughts that match your goals, not your moods, because your habits don't follow emotion. They follow repetition. And repetition comes from what you mentally practice every single day. If you constantly think, I can't stay disciplined, then your actions will never hold. But when you replace that with, I build discipline every time I show up, your brain rewires, your identity shifts. You become someone who doesn't just hope for results. You create them through structure and consistency. Habits aren't just about what you do. They're about who you believe you are, and your belief comes from thought. So when you think like someone who finishes what they start, you begin to act like it. You stop negotiating with excuses. You stop delaying your future. You stop needing to feel ready. You start moving because it's who you are now. This isn't about perfection, it's about direction. You're not trying to live flawlessly. You're building momentum through small wins, chosen again and again by thought patterns that match your future. If you want to live with strength, your mind must lead with structure. It must guide your behavior through clarity, not chaos. And clarity comes from deciding in advance how you will think, how you will show up, how you will respond. Not waiting until pressure hits. Weak thinking waits for conditions to be right. Powerful thinking creates the right conditions by showing up anyway. That's how strong habits form. That's how mental discipline becomes your new normal. Every time you repeat a thought, you reinforce a version of yourself. You're either rehearsing weakness or strengthening resolve. You're either programming your mind for distraction or building a foundation of focus. You are not stuck. You are repeating. And what you repeat is what you become. So stop telling yourself stories that keep you small. Start choosing thoughts that reinforce who you're becoming, not who you were. Let your thinking lead your action. Let your action define your momentum. Let your momentum create a lifestyle that reflects the vision you've been holding silently in your mind. You are closer than you think. One habit, one shift, one consistent thought at a time. This is how new realities are built. Not in one leap, but in disciplined thought that becomes disciplined living. Keep thinking like the future version of you, and watch as the present begins to rise to meet it. Every level of your life requires a different level of thinking. You cannot move into new results while holding on to outdated mental frameworks. The version of you that repeats old fears, entertains doubt, and clings to comfort cannot create something bold, strong, or lasting. Transformation demands mental elevation. It begins the moment you stop recycling the thoughts that built your past and start choosing thoughts that shape your future. There is no progress in holding on to who you were. There is only growth in deciding, thought by thought, who you will become. Change doesn't start with action. It starts with identity. And identity is built by what you repeatedly tell your mind. Every time you think in alignment with growth, you disrupt the cycle that kept you small. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, strength over comfort, purpose over pleasure, you reshape what's possible. The mind adapts to what you demand from it. If you keep lowering the bar, it will follow. But if you raise the standard and hold it with conviction, the mind adjusts. It begins to believe what you persistently feed it. And once belief shifts, behavior follows. You no longer have to force momentum. You become momentum because your thoughts now match your mission. Stop letting hesitation disguise itself as logic. Stop letting fear wear the mask of realism. There is nothing realistic about staying stuck. There is nothing logical about living beneath your potential. You are not here to survive your own thoughts. You are here to master them. And mastery doesn't come from avoiding difficulty. It comes from facing it with a mind trained for challenge. The stronger your thinking, the more pressure becomes fuel instead of friction. You stop breaking under weight and start using it to build something unshakable. There will always be noise. Doubt will always knock. But a trained mind doesn't answer. A trained mind doesn't entertain temporary emotion at the cost of long-term vision. It stays rooted in values, not moods, and those values are chosen through thought. You decide what matters. You decide what's worth focusing on. You decide who you become, not once, but every time your thoughts rise up. You do not need to feel strong to be strong. You need to think strong, speak strong, and act strong until it becomes your nature. This is how leaders are built. Not by waiting, not by hoping, by intentionally training the only thing that controls everything else, your thinking. Every next level of your life is on the other side of a new pattern, a new lens, a new standard. And you get there by rising above the noise in your own head. Choose clarity over confusion. Choose discipline over delay. Choose alignment over approval. Because when your mind becomes disciplined, your life becomes defined. And that definition draws in everything you once thought was out of reach. You're not waiting on life. Life is waiting on you to think like the person you were always meant to be. Everything you allow in your mind is either pulling you closer to your potential or pushing you further from it. There is no neutral thought. Every idea you entertain, every word you repeat, every image you visualize is shaping your identity. And identity is not formed overnight. It is built slowly, silently, through the repetition of your most dominant thoughts. If those thoughts are filled with fear, you start to expect failure. If they are filled with doubt, you begin to question your worth. But when they are filled with belief, vision, and strength, you begin to rise. Not because the world changes, but because your perception of yourself does. You don't see with your eyes, you see through your mindset. And when your mindset expands, so does everything else. You can't think small and live big. You can't focus on lack and expect abundance. You can't dwell on fear and expect peace. The outside doesn't shift until the inside does. Your reality will always reflect your internal settings. If your default setting is anxiety, you will attract chaos. If it's clarity, you will attract alignment. But you can't change the settings by hoping. You must rewire them with conscious thought, deliberate repetition, and unshakable intent. You must be bold enough to question every thought that keeps you stuck and brave enough to replace it with a better one. Because transformation is not about force, it's about frequency. What you hear most, you believe most. And what you believe most, you live. Your mind is not your enemy, it's your instrument. But like any instrument, it must be tuned. It must be directed. Left alone, it will wander. It will amplify worry. It will seek out what's wrong. But with training, it becomes focused, clear, and sharp. You don't need to eliminate every negative thought. You just need to refuse to let it lead. Let your dominant thoughts be rooted in strength. Let your focus be set on what you're building, not what you're fearing. Because fear is loud, but it's not truth. It's only as powerful as the attention you give it. Start asking better questions. Start demanding better answers from yourself. Instead of what if I fail, ask, what if I rise? Instead of why me, ask, why not me? Redirect your mental spotlight to what empowers you, not what paralyzes you. Your brain will follow the command, your energy will follow your thoughts, and your life will follow your energy. It all begins in the unseen, in the silence, in the space between one thought and the next. You are not your past patterns. You are the one who chooses them. You are not defined by what you've believed. You are shaped by what you're willing to believe now. So believe higher. Think higher, live higher, not because it's easy, but because it's who you were born to be. Your mind is the gate, and once you guard it, guide it, and grow it, nothing can stop what you're becoming. The greatest breakthroughs in life don't begin with action, they begin with clarity, and clarity begins with thought. When your thinking is scattered, your results are scattered. When your mind is pulled in every direction, your life follows. You cannot move forward if your thoughts are stuck in confusion, doubt, or fear. You must clear the mental clutter before progress can take shape. This isn't just about thinking positively, it's about thinking precisely, about choosing what deserves your focus and what must be removed. Because every thought has weight, and the heavier your thoughts, the harder it is to rise. You are carrying ideas that no longer serve you, beliefs that were never yours to begin with, doubts that have no place in the future you're building. And every time you revisit them, you breathe life into something that needs to die. The mind must be cleaned like a room. It must be organized, simplified, and restructured so that energy flows toward purpose. Too often, people try to create a new life with old thinking, but that's like planting new seeds in dry soil. Nothing will grow unless the ground is ready, and your mind is the ground. It must be prepared with intention. You must decide what thoughts are allowed to stay. You must define the mental standard that supports your vision. If it drains your energy, it must go. If it pulls you into regret, it has no place. If it feeds your fear, it cannot be tolerated. This is mental discipline at its highest level. Not just pushing yourself to do more, but refining what you think so you can become more. When your thoughts are aligned with your values, your decisions become simple. When your inner world is uncluttered, your actions become direct. There's no more conflict between what you want and what you do. You stop sabotaging, you stop stalling, you begin to accelerate. You don't need more thoughts, you need better ones. Fewer distractions, more intention, fewer mental loops, more purpose. The brain thrives on focus, and focus is born from clarity. When you remove what's unnecessary, what matters becomes obvious. And when what matters is obvious, your energy no longer gets divided. You channel it, you direct it, you own it, and that's when progress stops feeling heavy. It starts feeling inevitable. You are not overwhelmed because you're weak. You are overwhelmed because your mind is overloaded. Free it, clean it, choose simplicity over noise. Choose direction over distraction. And watch how your momentum builds without force. When your thoughts are light, your movement is fast. When your thoughts are sharp, your decisions are strong. And when your thoughts are clear, your life becomes a reflection of power, not pressure. Your clarity is your edge. Protect it, build it, return to it every single day. Because when the mind is clean, focused, and aligned, there is nothing you cannot build, nothing you cannot become, and nothing you cannot rise above. You lead your life with your mind, so lead it well. Your results are not determined by your potential. They are determined by your patterns, and every pattern begins in the mind. If you want to rise higher, you don't start with motivation. You start with mental alignment. You start by becoming brutally honest about the thoughts you allow to run on autopilot. Because if those thoughts are rooted in fear, self-doubt, or scarcity, they will quietly sabotage every effort you make. You'll set goals but never follow through. You'll make promises but never keep them. You'll try to change your behavior without first changing the beliefs that drive it. That's why real transformation starts long before you see results. It starts the moment you decide to interrupt the pattern. Nothing changes if your mind keeps rehearsing the same script. You can't live differently while thinking the same way. You must cut off the cycle that tells you to settle, that tells you to wait, that tells you you're not ready. Because readiness is not something you find, it's something you create by thinking in alignment with your future, not your fear. Every time you override a limiting thought with a powerful one, you reclaim control. You stop living from reaction, or you start creating from intention. That's how momentum is built. Internally first, externally second. Your mind will believe whatever you feed it most. Feed it chaos, and you'll feel paralyzed. Feed it purpose, and you'll feel unstoppable. Your dominant thoughts are not just visitors, they become anchors. They shape your identity. They build your habits. They define your limits. If you think like a person who always hesitates, your actions will follow. But if you train your mind to think with boldness, decisiveness, and clarity, you start becoming the kind of person who doesn't wait for perfect conditions. You create them. You do not have to be perfect to build power. You just have to be consistent. Consistent with the thoughts you allow, consistent with the standards you keep, consistent with the self-respect you protect, because your patterns are built through repetition. And every time you choose the thought that serves your vision instead of the one that feeds your fear, you weaken the old pattern. You weaken the identity that kept you small. You disconnect from the mindset that held you back. And with every mental shift, you move closer to the version of yourself that's been waiting to lead. There is no shortcut. There is only alignment. Alignment between who you say you are and how you think, between what you desire and what you mentally entertain. The gap between goals and results is not willpower, it's thought patterns. Shift the pattern and you shift the outcome. Focus with intention and the noise fades. Believe with consistency and the doubt dissolves. Train your thoughts and your life becomes a reflection of your strength. Not your circumstances, not your past, but the disciplined, chosen mindset you decide to live by every single day. This is the power pattern. This is the foundation of change.